So hyperparathyroidism, this occurs in two major forms. One is primary and another is secondary, and less commonly even tertiary form of hyperparathyroidism occurs. Primary hyperparathyroidism, it represents an autonomous, spontaneous overproduction of parathormone, whereas secondary and tertiary hyperparathyroidism typically occurs as secondary to other conditions, and mostly secondary and tertiary hyperparathyroidism occurs in individuals with chronic renal insufficiency or chronic renal disease. So hyperparathyroidism, it is divided into three types. Two common forms are primary and secondary, whereas even tertiary form can occur. Primary is always an autonomous and spontaneous overproduction of parathormone, whereas secondary as well as tertiary condition occurs secondary to other diseases, and most common diseases to secondary to which hyperparathyroidism occur is in patient with chronic renal insufficiency. Primary hyperparathyroidism, it is one of the most common endocrine disorder, and it is also one of the most common cause of hypercalcemia, because when there is hyperparathyroidism, it causes increased secretion of hormone parathormone, which leads to increased secretion of calcium. That's why it leads to hypercalcemia. And there are various parathyroid lesions which underlie the hyperfunction of the parathyroid gland, and among this, adenoma or parathyroid adenoma is one of the most common condition which leads to primary hyperparathyroidism, and it accounts for about 85 to 95% cases of the primary hyperparathyroidism. Next to adenoma, there is hyperplasia of the parathyroid gland, primary hyperplasia, and similar to that of the thyroid, it can be diffuse as well as nodular, and this primary hyperplasia accounts for 5 to 10% of the cases of primary hyperparathyroidism. And third condition is parathyroid carcinoma, which is least common and the rarest condition, and it accounts for almost equal to 1% of the cases. So we should remember that there are three conditions which will lead to primary hyperparathyroidism. Among that, parathyroid adenoma is the most common one, followed by primary hyperplasia of the parathyroid gland and parathyroid carcinoma. Primary hyperparathyroidism, it is usually a disease of adult, and it is more common in women with a ratio of 4:1, and 80% of the patients are identified in the outpatient setting when hypercalcemia is discovered incidentally on a serum electrolyte panel, and most cases occur in 50s or later in life. As we discussed earlier, the most common cause is solitary parathyroid adenoma, which arises in the sporadic or non-familial setting. And there are various genetic syndromes which are associated with primary hyperparathyroidism. Among this, we have multiple endocrine neoplasia 1, multiple endocrine neoplasia 2, and multiple endocrine neoplasia gene is located on the chromosome 11, and it is a tumor suppressor gene, and it is inactivated in a variety of multiple endocrine neoplasia 1 related parathyroid lesions, including parathyroid adenoma and hyperplasia. You need not go into the details of this, but you should know that there are various genetic disorders or genetic syndromes which are associated with primary hyperparathyroidism, and you should be able to name them. That is, you should be able to name multiple endocrine neoplasia 1, 2, and other genetic disorders. Multiple endocrine neoplasia 2, it is caused by activating mutation in the tyrosine kinase receptor. And third condition is familial hypocalciuric hypercalcemia, and this is an autosomal dominant disorder, and it is characterized by the increased activity of the parathyroid gland due to decreased sensitivity to extracellular calcium. So these were the 3 genetic conditions which are associated with primary hyperparathyroidism, and most, if not all, sporadic parathyroid adenomas, they are monoclonal, suggesting that they are true neoplasm, and you need not go into the details of the genetic mutations, but at least you should be able to, at least you should know the connection between various genetic mutations and primary hyperparathyroidism. And there are various conditions which are associated with the parathyroid adenoma, such as cyclin D1 gene inversion, MEN1 mutations, and approximately about 20 to 30% of the parathyroid tumors, they are not associated with the MEN1 syndrome, and they have mutation in both copies of the MEN1 gene. Primary hyperparathyroidism, it may be asymptomatic, and as we discussed earlier, usually it is identified in the outpatient setting as a accidental finding when we do the serum electrolyte of the patient for other causes, and it is associated with, it is asymptomatic, and it can be identified after a routine chemistry profile, or it is associated with the classical clinical manifestation of primary hyperparathyroidism. Asymptomatic hyperparathyroidism, because serum calcium levels are routinely assessed in the workup of most patients who need blood test. Clinically silent hyperparathyroidism is often detected early, and many of the classic manifestations, particularly those manifestations which are related to the bone and the kidney, are now seen infrequently in the clinical practice because of the earlier detection of the hyperparathyroidism. Primary hyperparathyroidism, it is one of the most common cause of asymptomatic hypercalcemia, and it is indeed one of the most common manifestation of primary hyperparathyroidism is hypercalcemia. So when we see hypercalcemia, we should always suspect whether there is hyperparathyroidism or not, or there is some disease which is related to the parathyroid gland. Besides that, less common causes of asymptomatic hyperparathyroidism are malignancy, which stands out as the most frequent cause of clinically apparent hypercalcemia in adult, and this malignancy must be excluded by appropriate clinical and laboratory investigation if patients are suspected with hyperparathyroidism. When we talk about the patients with the primary hyperparathyroidism, we all know that in hyperparathyroidism, parathormone levels are inappropriately elevated for the level of the serum calcium, whereas parathormone levels, they are low to undetectable in hypercalcemia caused by other non-parathyroid diseases. So we should always correlate the level of the parathormone with the level of the hypercalcemia. If parathormone is increased concurrently with the hypercalcemia, then we should always think that it is because of the parathyroid because of any lesion in the parathyroid gland. But if there is hypercalcemia only and parathormone levels are low or undetectable, then we should consider it to be due to other diseases or disease not related to the parathyroid gland. Other laboratory alterations which refers to parathormone excess include hypophosphatemia and increased urinary excretion of both calcium and phosphate, and secondary renal disease may lead to phosphate retention with normalization of the serum phosphate. So from this we can we can know that from all this we can know that when there is hyperparathyroidism, there is always increased level of parathormone, there is always increased level of calcium, whereas serum phosphate level are decreased and there is increased urinary excretion of calcium as well as phosphate. But if it is due to secondary diseases like renal disease, it may lead to phosphate retention with normalization of the serum phosphate. That is, serum phosphate are normal in cases of disease, in cases of hypercalcemia related to other disease. So in hyperparathyroidism, there is increased serum calcium, increased parathormone level, decreased serum phosphate level, and increased excretion of calcium and phosphate in the urine. This is same causes of hypercalcemia. If it is due to hyperparathyroidism, it is primary is usually due to adenoma, followed by hyperplasia and carcinoma, and secondary and tertiary familial hypocalciuric hypercalcemia. It is a genetic condition, and in all this we see increased parathormone level, whereas if there is hypercalcemia which is related to malignancy, vitamin D toxicity, immobilization, hypercalcemia if it is due to thiazide diuretics or granulomatous disease, in those conditions there is always decreased parathormone level. Symptomatic hyperparathyroidism. The signs and symptoms of hyperparathyroidism, it reflects the combined effect of increased parathormone secretion and hypercalcemia, and these are associated with the painful bones, renal stones, abdominal groans, and psychic moans. So you can be asked in MCQ, what are the painful bones, renal stone, and abdominal groans and psychic moans are seen in which condition? It is symptomatic or primary hyperparathyroidism. The constellation of the symptoms include painful bones, bone disease, and bone pain, secondary to fractures of bone because these bones are weakened by osteoporosis or osteitis fibrosa cystica because of the resorption of the calcium from the bone. Bones are weakened. Nephrorethiasis, that is renal stone, is seen in 20% of newly diagnosed patients with attendant pain as well as obstructive neuropathy because of the hypercalcemia. Chronic renal insufficiency and abnormalities in renal function may lead to polyuria and secondary polydipsia. Gastrointestinal disturbances, that is abdominal groans, include constipation, nausea, peptic ulcer, pancreatitis, and gallstone. Psychic moans, central nervous system alteration, including depression, lethargy, and eventually seizures, neuromuscular abnormalities, including weakness and fatigue, and cardiac manifestation, including aortic or mitral valve calcification or calcification in both the valves. So these are the classic clinical features of the hyperparathyroidism because of the hypercalcemia. Abnormalities are most directly related to hyperparathyroidism. These abnormalities which are related to hyperparathyroidism are nephrolithiasis and bone disease, whereas those attributable to hypercalcemia include fatigue, weakness, and constipation. Secondary hyperparathyroidism caused by any condition which gives rise to chronic hypocalcemia, which in turn leads to compensatory overactivity of the parathyroid gland, and as I said earlier, renal failure or chronic renal insufficiency is one of the most common cause of secondary hyperparathyroidism. Besides that, several other diseases like inadequate dietary intake of calcium, steatorrhea, vitamin D deficiency may also cause secondary hyperparathyroidism. Chronic renal insufficiency, it is associated with decreased phosphate excretion, which in turn results in hyperphosphatemia, and when the phosphate levels are increased in the serum, what they do, they depress the level of the calcium, and they cause, because of the hyperphosphatemia, there is hypocalcemia, and when there is hypocalcemia, parathyroid gland is stimulated. In addition, loss of renal substances reduces the availability of alpha-1 hydroxylase, which are necessary for the synthesis of the active form of vitamin D, which also reduces the intestinal absorption of calcium. And vitamin D, it has suppressive effect on parathyroid growth and parathormone secretion, and related deficiency of the vitamin D compounds the hyperparathyroidism in renal failure. In secondary hyperparathyroidism, the symptoms, they are usually dominated by those of the chronic renal failure, bone abnormalities like renal osteodystrophy, and other changes which are associated with the excess of the parathormone. In general, less severe than are those seen in primary hyperparathyroidism. So most of the clinical features are related to those of the chronic renal failure, but symptoms similar to those similar to that of the primary hyperparathyroidism is also seen in secondary hyperparathyroidism, but these symptoms are less severe compared to that of the primary hyperparathyroidism. Vascular calcifications are associated with the secondary hyperparathyroidism, which may occasionally result in significant ischemic changes, ischemic damage to the skin and other organs, and this process is referred to as calciphylaxis. Patients with secondary hyperparathyroidism, they respond to vitamin D supplementation as well as phosphate binders to decrease prevailing hyperphosphatemia, and in a minority of patients, parathyroid activity may become autonomous and excessive, and with resultant hypercalcemia and a process that is sometimes referred to as tertiary hyperparathyroidism. Any doubt in hyperparathyroidism? No doubt. Hyperparathyroidism, it is divided into two types: primary, secondary, and tertiary. Tertiary is less common. Primary is due to the autonomous secretion of the hormone, parathormone, from the parathyroid gland, and secondary is usually due to the disease, secondary to the diseases, and the most common disease is chronic renal insufficiency. And in primary, what is the main cause of primary hyperparathyroidism? Anyone from the class? Anyone? What is the main cause of primary hyperparathyroidism? Can you hear me?
Adenoma.
Okay, adenoma, and followed by parathyroid hyperplasia and carcinoma. So what are the classic clinical features of hyperparathyroidism? It is bone pain, renal stone, abdominal groan, and psychic moans. So in hyperparathyroidism, there is always increased level of parathormone, increased level of calcium, decreased level of phosphate in the serum, and increased excretion of calcium and phosphate from the urine. So in other causes, other conditions which are associated with hypercalcemia, there is in other conditions which are associated with hypercalcemia, there is decreased secretion of the hormone parathormone. That is the most important point to remember. So now we'll talk about hypoparathyroidism. Hypoparathyroidism, it is far less common compared to hyperparathyroidism, and acquired hypoparathyroidism is almost always an inadvertent consequence of surgery. Besides that, there are several genetic causes of hypoparathyroidism. Surgically induced hypoparathyroidism occurs with inadvertent removal of all the parathyroid gland during thyroidectomy, because parathyroid glands, where they are located. What is the location of the parathyroid gland?
Nothing.
Anyone? What is the location of the parathyroid gland? Parathyroid gland, they are located in the upper pole of the thyroid gland. Because of that, when thyroidectomy is done, all the parathyroid glands are removed. Because of that, patient may present with hypoparathyroidism. Excision of the parathyroid gland is in the mistaken belief that they are lymph nodes during radical neck dissection for some form of malignant disease, may also lead to hypoparathyroidism, or removal of too large proportion of parathyroid tissue in the treatment of primary hyperparathyroidism may also lead to hypoparathyroidism. So in most of the cases, hypoparathyroidism is acquired, and mostly it is surgically induced due to removal of the parathyroid gland during thyroidectomy, due to excision of the parathyroid gland when parathyroid glands are mistaken for the lymph node metastasis when the radical neck dissection is carried out, and when most of the proportion of the parathyroid gland are surgically excised as a treatment of primary hyperparathyroidism. Autoimmune hypoparathyroidism, it is often associated with chronic mucocutaneous candidiasis and primary adrenal insufficiency, and this syndrome is known as autoimmune polyendocrine syndrome type 1, and it is caused by the mutation in the autoimmune regulator gene. So there is autoimmune hypoparathyroidism, which is associated with chronic mucocutaneous candidiasis and primary adrenal insufficiency. This autoimmune hypoparathyroidism, it typically presents in childhood with the onset of candidiasis and followed several years later by hypoparathyroidism and then adrenal insufficiency during adolescence. Autosomal dominant hypoparathyroidism, it is caused by gain of function mutation in calcium sensing receptor. Inappropriate calcium sensing receptor activity due to abnormal calcium sensing suppresses parathormone, which results in hypocalcemia and hypercalciuria. And familial isolated hypoparathyroidism, it is a rare condition. It has either autosomal dominant or recessive pattern of inheritance. Autosomal dominant familial hypoparathyroidism, it is caused by mutation in the gene which encodes parathormone precursor peptide and which impairs its processing to mature hormone. And autosomal recessive is caused by loss of function mutation in the transcription factor gene, which is essential for the development of the parathyroid. So you need not go into the detail of the genetic mutation. You should know that there are various forms of the hypoparathyroidism. The most common one is the surgical ablation, and beside that there is autoimmune and familial forms also occur. Congenital absence of the parathyroid gland, it can occur in conjunction with other malformations such as thymic aplasia and cardiovascular defect. And with thymic defect present, the condition is called DiGeorge syndrome. The major clinical manifestations are related to the severity and the chronicity of the hypocalcemia. In hypoparathyroidism, we had hypercalcemia. So in hypoparathyroidism, we'll have hypocalcemia. The hallmark of hypocalcemia is tetany, which is characterized by neuromuscular irritability, which results from decreased serum ionized calcium concentration, and the symptoms range from circumoral numbness or paresthesias or tingling sensation of the distal extremities and carpopedal spasm, or it can also lead to life-threatening laryngospasm and generalized seizure because of the lack of the calcium. Classic finding on physical examination are Soptic signs and Troche's signs, and Shostak signs is elicited in subclinical disease, and this can be elicited by tapping along the course of the facial nerve. And when we tap along the course of the facial nerve, it induces contraction of the muscles of the eye, mouth, or nose. And the Troche's sign, it refers to the carpal spasm which are produced by occlusion of the circulation to the forearm and hand with the blood pressure cough for several minutes. Besides that, mental status changes can include emotional instability, anxiety, depression, confusional state, hallucination, and psychosis. And intracranial manifestation can include calcification of the basal ganglia, Parkinsonian-like movement disorder, and increased intracranial pressure with resultant papilledema. The paradoxical association of hypocalcemia with calcification may be because of an increase in the phosphate level, resulting in the tissue deposit with locally reduced calcium. And ocular disease, it can take the form of calcification of the lens and the cataract formation. Cardiovascular manifestation can include conduction defect, because as we all know that the neuromuscular conduction we need calcium, and because of that cardiovascular manifestation can include conduction defect, and this conduction defect can produce a characteristic prolongation of the QT interval in the ECG. And dental abnormalities can occur when hypocalcemia is present during early development, and these findings, they are highly characteristic of hypothyroidism, and they include dental hypoplasia, failure of eruption, defective enamel and root formation, and abraded caries teeth. In this condition, hypoparathyroidism occurs because of the end organ resistance to the action of the parathormone. serum PTH levels are normal or elevated. In one form of pseudo-hypoparathyroidism, there is multi-hormone end organ resistance to TSH and FSH, LH beside PTH. Pseudo-hypoparathyroidism. In pseudo-hypoparathyroidism, all these hormones, they signal via G protein triggered second messenger, and the disorder result from the genetic defect in this pathway. And parathormone resistance is the most obvious clinical manifestation, presenting as hypocalcemia, hyperphosphatemia, and elevated circulating level of PTH. And TSH resistance is mild, while LH-FSH resistance manifests as hypergonadotropic hypogonadism in females. So in pseudo-hypoparathyroidism, parathormone is present, but tissue is resistant to the effect of the parathormone. Any question regarding